This video will provide an introduction to citing in the IEEE citation style. I'll cover the basics of citation, resources available to help you cite different types of information, and show you a few tools that might help. I'm going to demonstrate the basics of IEEE citation using examples from two journal articles. Both of these articles are from open access journals published by IEEE. We're going to look at how they cite information in order to point out the key features of this style. When you need to cite a source, do it at the end of the sentence or immediately after the name of the author. The very first sentence of this paper includes a citation at the end of the sentence, which is the number 1 here. References appear in the square brackets and inside any punctuation like a period. This is a basic reference to the text, and the full citation will appear at the end of the document. In order to show an example of a citation immediately following the author's name, I'm going to pull up a second journal article. Here you can see that the citation number 18 immediately follows the author's name, Baber et al. Et al is a designation that you'll use if there are more than 6 authors listed in what you're citing. When you use et al, you place it in italics with a period after all, immediately following the first author's name. You can see several more citations in this first paragraph alone, and even see an example of one sentence that refers to multiple citations. So the first part of this sentence references citations 5 through 8, and the second part of the sentence references citations 9 through 11. In this case, the author says that several studies have assessed the accuracy of wrist-worn monitors to measure heart rate in healthy subjects, and then points to all of those references at once. If you need to do this in your own paper, you just include the first reference of the set in brackets, then a hyphen, and then the last reference of the set in brackets. All of the references on this page are examples of the author paraphrasing work. It's better to paraphrase than directly quote a source because it allows you to demonstrate your understanding of the source instead of relying on the author's wording. This is what you're going to see most often in academic sources. You'll notice that figures are referenced within the text of the article with the word figure and the number of the figure within parentheses. This matches up to the figure of the article, which are shown with a caption. The same format is used for tables, images, and other figures. So let's scroll down to the reference list so I can show you kind of the way that this is formatted. You'll notice that the same reference number style is used as in the in-text citation. The reference number is enclosed in brackets. Notice too that the reference numbers are flush left and hang out in their own column. This means that the body of the reference is indented past the first line. So the references in this list are going to be appearing in the order in which they appeared in the written text of the paper. So you'll notice that nothing is alphabetized in this list. Use the author's initial for their first and middle name if given, and use their full last name. They don't all have to match here. You just abbreviate whatever's given. So some authors may have 2 initials, whereas other authors may just have the 1 initial for their first name. As an aside, know that sometimes you have corporate authors, where there isn't a specific author listed on the document, but it's published by an organization or a corporation. This happens a lot of times with web documents. You would just put the name of the corporation or organization where the author would normally go. Look carefully at the capitalization in this reference list. Things like journal articles and book chapters only have the first word capitalized and the rest is lowercase. The exception to this is any word that starts after a colon or a proper noun like United States. Notice that the title of the journal that the article is found in, or a book that the book chapter is found in, are formatted so that all significant words are capitalized. This is more similar to what you might see if you're familiar with doing MLA citations. You'll also notice that journal titles are abbreviated. In the IEEE style, you'll need to abbreviate the journal titles. On the research guide, there is a link to journal title and magazine title abbreviations. So, for example, If I wanted to cite the journal IEEE Transactions on Biomedical Circuits and Systems, the reference abbreviation is listed on the right column. If a journal is not listed here, like the International Journal of Engineering Science, just type the journal title followed by the word abbreviation, and usually Google can help you out. The best way to learn how to do your own citations is to figure out where to go. Beyond basic citations like books and journal articles, you will inevitably come across a source that's really tricky to cite. So I've made this research guide to help point you to some good citation examples. I've linked to the official IEEE reference guide, which is a little long, but will cover most any reference you could think of. It starts out with an overview of how to add references into the text of your document, but the bulk of the guide is focused on how to format citations. There are a number of examples of how to format books, but the basic format for citing a chapter in a book is the author, comma, and then the title of the chapter in the book, and notice that only that first word is uppercase, the rest is lowercase, and that's in quotation marks. The word in, followed by the title of the published book, and that's going to be any significant word will be uppercase, and the whole thing will be italics, comma, and then if there's an addition, you will put that after the title of the published book. That ends the first section where you're going to put a period. Then it's followed by the city of the publishing company, comma, state, if the state's in the US, comma, country, and then a colon with the name of the publishing company, comma, year. If you have a chapter or a section, you can list that there, and then you certainly will have page number range, and so that's going to go at the end, and you'll wrap the entire citation up with a period. We can see an example of this with the first bullet point. So we have the author's names, and then it goes straight to the title of the book. And we can see that this book was published by MIT Press, which is located in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and it was published in 1986. So this document is going to include tons of examples, and it's going to specify a lot of different types of material that you might need. So if you have a question on something that's kind of unique, you can probably find it in here. Other major sections are conferences and conference proceedings. So if you had to cite a paper that was presented at a conference or a paper that's actually in the conference proceedings available in print, that's going to be here. If you needed to cite a class that you're taking, you can cite that, or cite a particular course pack that your instructor may have put together. There's information on citing data sets, handbooks and lectures, manuals and software, online videos like a YouTube video for example, patents, and periodicals. So periodicals covers anything that's published on a regular cycle, like a magazine or a journal article. So we've got the basic format for periodicals here. You'll notice in IEEE, it also has a section for a periodical with an article ID. So if you notice that the article you need to cite has an article sequence number or an article ID, that's what that's referring to, and so you can use that in your citation. Many articles also have a DOI number that can be used in the citation as well, and you will see examples of periodicals that have a DOI citation in the manual. There are also section headings for reports, standards, theses and dissertations that are part of education, government documents, things that are unpublished, and websites. There's also a note about online references and all of the different things that you may need to include at the end of your citation, like a date of access, the fact that it's online in brackets, and different indicators of where to find that material, like a URL or a DOI. So in general, for each reference, you just need to look at the example, identify which parts you need from your source, and plug them into the right place. Always be careful to look at things like capitalization, punctuation, is there a comma in a certain place and a period in another place, and italics. So I know that the IEEE guide can maybe feel a little bit overwhelming. So on the research guide, I've linked to the appendix of a book, which is the IEEE Guide to Writing in the Engineering and Technical Fields. And so I'm just going to scroll down to where it says View Online and click into the link beneath that. And that's going to take me to the full text of the book, and you can see if I scroll here at the bottom, that's the appendix, the IEEE style for references. And so I can just download it straight from there, or I could read it online, but it provides a really nice short summary of IEEE citations. And I would encourage you to start there. Maybe even print that out for a quick reference. And most of your basic types of sources are going to be included, but it's just a little bit easier to digest. So there are a few things that I noticed that are not mentioned in the IEEE reference guide or in the appendix that I've linked to here. So I've linked to a resource below under FAQs that provides really great examples. So you can follow these links to learn how to do some specific things. The first is how to use direct quotes in IEEE. Like I mentioned, this is kind of discouraged, but when you do want to use a direct quote, you need to know how to actually cite it. So in the body of your text, it shows here that you're going to continue to put the number of your reference in brackets, but you're going to follow that up with comma, p period, and then the page number, all of that within the brackets. And so that's the format that you're going to use to actually include a direct quote. Another kind of FAQ is how to cite figures, tables, images, or equations from a different source. And so this shows that whichever you're citing, again, you're going to include that basic reference in brackets, and then you're going to do a comma and then cite whichever figure or table or equation or image is already cited in that other source, using whatever figure number or table number they used in the article or source that you're referencing. Related to this, logos are not the same thing as just the standard image. They're usually trademarked and they are the intellectual property of a brand or an organization. So usually the only way to use a logo is to get express permission from the organization itself. So normally we're not citing logos necessarily. We will cite images, but if you wanted to use a logo, it's either because you belong to that organization or because you've received permission to include the logo in your research poster or whatever you might be publishing. Lastly, I wanted to show a quick example of some tools that you can use to help you with your citations. And I'm only going to show a really brief example, so I've included links on the research guide under citation tools where you can learn more. So I'm going to demonstrate RefWorks a little bit, and I also have a link here to some documentation that shows how to add citations using Microsoft Word when you're typing up your research paper. So this link goes to a guide, another research guide that talks about RefWorks, so hopefully any question that you have might be answered there. But you're going to access RefWorks by going to the library website, library.campbell.edu. And under Quick Links, we can just click right into RefWorks. And in order to access RefWorks, you actually want to use the new RefWorks. They're phasing out the orange logo, and they're only supporting the blue logo, which is a lot nicer to use anyway. So whenever you make a new account, be sure to do it in the new RefWorks. So RefWorks is a citation management tool that helps you organize sources that you've found online, and it can also generate bibliographies. So I'm going to go into my own RefWorks account here, and I'm in a folder that I've made called Engineering. And so let's say that I want to add these two sources that I have pulled up in my browser right now. There's a lot of different ways that you can do that. What I'm going to do is actually just create a new reference, go over here, and copy paste the title of the reference into the title section here. If I click on the lightning bolt, it's going to try to find a match just based on the title, and I can double check that this is the correct one and select that first one. It's going to populate all of the information that's going to belong in that citation and also some extras like the abstract so that I can remember what this particular article is about. And if I hit save, it adds it to my own folder. So you can do a lot of different things with these. You can organize information into a bunch of different folders. You can share them with teammates or a professor so that everybody can work on creating a bibliography together. And so I'm going to go ahead and add a second citation from the Internet of Things article. It found it, and I'll save it to my RefWorks. So once I have a couple of citations in here, I can actually generate a bibliography by clicking on the quotes. I've selected IEEE as my citation style, and you'll see that it creates a bibliography in the correct IEEE citation style for me. There's also a way to integrate your RefWorks sources directly into Microsoft Word so that you can add references from RefWorks into your Word document as you're writing your paper, and then even generate your bibliography in Word. So it's really important to note, however, that when you rely on software like this to generate citations, there's a risk that it's going to go wrong. So you always need to check behind and fix errors. So it's really important to actually understand the citation style as well. It's impossible to demonstrate every possible citation you may have to format, so if you ever have a question, feel free to reach out to a librarian for help. From the library website, you can click on the Ask icon in the banner, top or bottom, to get in touch. We even have a 24/7 chat service. The best way to learn citations is through practice. In an in-person workshop, we would have had a lot more time and the ability to practice some exercises together, but for now, try following the examples provided on the pages I've linked to in this guide, and don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions.